Welcome to Citizen Concern, where we remind you to beware of the comrades. I'm Katlagomwagi. Please subscribe and follow, like and comment, share and repost. #SmartVoters, #Citizen Concerned.
Our people continue to live in spaceless townships and informal settlements in squalor without clean water and flushing toilets.
That is true. Our people are suffering. We definitely agree on that.
When we revived the cry for land to build houses, build schools, churches, factories, and farms, this cry was once more hijacked. Despite hundreds of submissions that made a concrete call for expropriation of all land without compensation, whites continue to own 72% of total farms and agricultural land, while black Africans only own 4% of the land.
The Constitution makes provision for people who can prove that they were forced off land to be given their land back without compensation. And there are cases where this has already happened. What I'm about to share shows that when it comes to the very important issue of land, we certainly do have an enemy, but not the one we have been focusing on all this while. In most conversations, the focus has been land expropriation without compensation, which has been proven to lead to a downward spiral in a nation's economy. Instead, we should be focusing on land expropriation with compensation, which will not lead to or have as dangerous consequences to our economy. Look at the following 3 examples. Firstly, the South African government already has more than 6,000 farms which they got with compensation. Those farms are now in the hands of the government, but they are not producing as much as they used to, meaning South Africa is not getting the most out of those farms. Plus, they are not employing the number of people they used to employ, thus adding to the unemployment crisis. To all black citizens wanting to farm, you should be addressing your plans and finance struggles with the government instead of hating white citizens. The government used taxes to buy the farms from white farmers, and the aim of the purchase was not to have the farms dormant, but to distribute the farms to you, black citizens, right? So there is nothing wrong in wanting farming land, but the lack of knowledge that some land is already out of the hands of white farmers and in the hands of a black government is where a lot of us miss the opportunity. If indeed we have the energy to take land by force from white farmers, which will more than likely cause chaos, why don't we use that same energy to get the 6,000 farms in the hands of the government? Why? This is a genuine question. If farms are what we want, and farms have been peacefully acquired by a government, the same farms are sitting dormant, why don't we take and use those farms instead of embarking on a potentially messy, chaotic, uneconomical land expropriation without compensation venture? Please share your answer in the comments below because I'm very curious to know what the answer to that question would be. Secondly, the economy is bad, and this has resulted in thousands of factories being abandoned because many companies have gone out of business. Just walk around and look around. How many empty factories do we see? If we have a plan or a purpose for factories, let's use the ones that are already standing vacant instead of building new ones. It makes sense to do that, right? What we should be building are homes for the poor, which leads us to our third point. The government has land earmarked for RDP houses. Their failures to build more houses cannot be blamed on land ownership. That's why you see that they don't give the excuse that land is a problem when it comes to RDP houses. The government has already built some houses for some South African families, but they are just wasteful, they are dishonest and incompetent in the process, which is why the RDP waiting list is still so long and a huge number of the poor are still without decent houses. How many times have you heard of foreigners owning RDP houses? How many times have you heard of unqualifying government officials owning about 5 RDP houses and renting them out to poor South Africans? The land is there, but an honest, competent government is missing, and that is why some poor citizens are still without homes. And all this should be reason enough to vote the ANC out. So these 3 points have addressed land for farming, land for factories, and land for housing. South Africa, please pay attention to me very clearly, because what I'm about to say is very serious and important. When we say land should be expropriated with compensation, we mean that land should be bought from willing sellers, and it doesn't mean that you, the citizen, have to make a plan and buy land with your own money exclusively. The government is the one that has the responsibility to buy the land from a willing seller. Most of our taxes come from the top 10% earners in South Africa. Those white monopolies you complain about, they pay most of our taxes. So after taxing them, some of the money is looted by tenderpreneurs, some pays government salaries, some pays SASSA, but some buys land. Some of the land is used for RDP houses and some of it for farming. The government is supposed to buy land and farms and then give the land to the people in an orderly manner, making sure that the land is used properly, allowing us to have homes, farms, as well as food for the country. The government has used the taxes to buy farms following the willing buyer, willing seller model. Our responsibility as citizens now is to fight for those dormant farms to be used by black farmers. Do you know about the Vrede Dairy Farm project? 2 former ANC members, namely Ace Magashule and Jacob Zuma, both of whom Julius Malema invited into his party, caused the looting of hundreds of millions of rands intended for the poor black people of Free State. Estina, a BEE company, was given the land under a free 99-year lease. The aim of the 250 dairy project was to empower black farmers, but bank statements show that no payments were made to black beneficiaries. Instead, the dairy farm was just a shell company through which money was sent to India, laundered through Dubai, and paid for the lavish Gupta wedding. One of the patriots who reported this issue trying to protect us from the looters was murdered. A whole assassination. But former President Jacob Zuma is free. Ace Magashule is free. The Guptas are free. Mosebezi Zwane, who made these payments, is also free. Both Zuma and Magashule now have launched their own political parties. These politicians had the land to give to small farmers. They had an opportunity to give the funding for farming to commence. But what did they do? They looted. Less than 1% of these hundreds of millions even reached the Vrede dairy farmers. The Vrede dairy farm is one example. The farms currently owned by the government are 6,000 more examples. We want land, nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is that land is there but not being given to us citizens, be it for ownership or leasing. Instead, the majority of those farms are dilapidated, underperforming, and the equipment that was on those farms is being looted. Imagine if those were the only farms in South Africa, or if the government had gotten ownership of all the farms in South Africa. We would have been starving right now, or we would have had to spend billions to import food from other countries. Before rushing to take more land and more farms, why don't we work on the 6,000 that we already have? With enough training, funding, and guidance, black farmers can rise. But black leaders, the president, the ministers are keeping us down. Don't tell us about nationalization. Our government has land and money, but politicians are failing to provide for and equip people. Let's sit down, close our mouths for a second, and research, then speak. You as a voter need to stop falling for these promises and stories. Open your eyes and see that you are being manipulated. South African law allows for expropriation of land without compensation if that land was taken by force from Black South Africans. My family, the Moaris, were among the Black community whose land in Walmanstal was taken by the apartheid government between 1965 and 1977. Thousands of hectares taken just like that. My family, along with thousands of other people who were victims of this apartheid action, brought a claim to the land claims courts and we won. And that land was to be given back. This is the best and only proper way to get land without compensation. We won the case and the land was to be divided among the many families that had been displaced to Soshanguve. We were happy we went to receive our share of the land, a plot that my family could call their own. After all that excitement, going there to clean the plot of land and mark our section, unfortunately, we did not get our land back. A few connected men and women got that land. Some Black South Africans who had right to that land got the land, but so did some foreigners, and so did South Africans that had no right to that particular land. This was supposed to have been handled well, but corruption, threats, and assassinations made us walk away. Why? Because a government fails to handle anything with care. My family, my mother, my brothers, aunts and uncles, cousins and granny chose to walk away to avoid assassinations. And sadly, this is a trend in South Africa. There are a lot of cases where land has been returned to communities of South Africa, but the incompetence of the South African government is standing in the way of the communities actually enjoying and benefiting from the land ownership. Cases like Alexco. The Richtersveld Community owns the diamond-rich land and sea regions right here in South Africa. The land and sea diamonds are mined by the company called Alexco. The Richtersveld Community won their land back and were given 49% of Alexco, while the South African government owns 51%. Imagine, the community that owns diamond fields and diamond mines. The land was also occupied partially by farmers who had thousands of cattle, ostriches and sheep.
What did you expect to happen?
Ek het verwag dat ek 'n beter lewe sal hê. Nou ons se grond gekry het met alles wat daarmee gepaard gaan.
Who made the promises?
Die CPA, die leiers wat ons gekies het vir ons beloof.
Unfortunately, yet again, the government failed to protect and help the poor Richtersveld community, and the farms fell into ruin because of internal politics, corruption, and incompetence. The community of 2,700 people received money paid into a trust fund. It was reparations of 190 million rand. They were also paid 50 million rand as compensation for the mineral wealth that was taken from their land while they were dispossessed. In addition to that, they inherited thriving farms, and Alexco was supposed to pay them 45 million rand to get the community housing in Alexandra Bay, which was to be given to the community over a period of 10 years. This was major, like a major win.
The community's sudden access to significant wealth was a windfall.
Ons het nou gekry plase, diere. Ons het die implemente gekry.
To a subsistence farmer, it was heaven. Samuel Kluter has worked on the farms for 40 years.
When you first came here, what were these farms like?
Soos 'n paradys. Die vrugteborde, die groente, landery, die voer vir die beeste, die skape, die perde, die hoenders, alles was hier. Baie, baie, baie.
You can hardly tell, but this farm was once teeming with life. There was everything here from cattle to pigs to ostriches. There was an abattoir here, a tannery here. For the people who had worked all their lives on farms like this, to be told this was now theirs.
All the farms there are now for subsistence farming. What about the diamonds? Well, the management of Alexco are corrupt and incompetent. The Guptas had a hand in there as well through their company, Alexandra Bay Diamonds Company.
The Special Investigating Unit will start investigations into the awarding of diamond tenders at Alexcor Mining Company. President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed a proclamation to investigate the state-owned mining company on the coast of the Northern Cape. Alexcor Mining Company mines both on land and in the ocean in the diamond-rich Richtersveld in the Northern Cape. It holds a 51% stake in the company, while the Richtersveld Community holds 49%. The community received the shares through a successful land claim in 2007. There have been several complaints in the past by community members over the contracts awarded to service providers.
I'll make a separate video regarding Alexco soon, but I thought adding it to this video will help us put things into perspective regarding land matters in South Africa. Alexco corruption and mismanagement has caused money to not reach the Richtersveld community. There are diamond mines and there are diamonds available in the sea as well, but where is the money going? The Richtersveld community should be full of millionaires by now. But hey, the government has let us down yet again. Instead, the entire region is impoverished. Do you see what this means? In all these cases, land was fine in private hands, but the incompetence of the government has resulted in poor management, high corruption, and poor performance. It means as long as we have a self-serving, dirty, unskilled government, whether we buy the land, nationalize it, expropriate it with or without compensation, we will not succeed because the land is not the issue. The problem is the government. No matter what we or Julius Malema does, we will never succeed in anything we do under such a government. Yes, we should fight for land, but the enemy we are fighting against is the government. The government is failing to keep their dirty paws out of the money jar. The government is failing to equip, educate, train, and police the entire process. There should be rules that say that we give you a farm, we train you, we provide you with the resources, with some mentorship, and if you fail to succeed after a certain period, the state has the right to take back the farm. If you misuse the funds given and waste or loot, the opportunity is given to someone else. There should be consequences. Some of these people are given farms with equipment, funding, but they misuse the money on German cars and loot the farm equipment. Others farm for one season and after harvesting, they buy Range Rovers, and the next season they have no money to invest back into the farm. Julius, I'm afraid your corruption, Shibambu's corruption, your love of socialism, your love of dictators, your love of the high life, your connections to cigarette smuggling mafias, and the fact that they fund your party and your lavish lifestyle, the fact that you're cozy with Jacob Zuma and Ace Magashule, and the fact that you don't understand why South Africa nationalizing land will destroy lives is why people should not vote for you. I'm not sure if it's not having a clue how to revive the economy or intentionally proposing solutions that you know will lead to the short and long-term destruction of South Africa's economy. Nationalizing land does not fix the economy. Taking the land does not make you or the government competent. Taking the land does not automatically mean you can build homes and factories. It's illogical to think that simply by nationalizing the land, all of a sudden you can build hospitals and factories, schools and houses. What is the status of the buildings, the hospitals, the schools and factories currently owned by the national government? Terrible. So terrible that most of the government officials don't even use them. Why don't we start there, take lessons from there and fix there? Lastly, Julius Malema said this.
Like all our previous manifestos, our 2024 manifesto is not a document of promises, but real and realizable commitments. We do not make empty promises in the EFF. We make solid, sound, and scientifically proven and based commitments. That's who we are and that's what we represent.
Scientifically sound commitments. Oh, Abiti Julius, where is the school you promised the residents of Alexandria? You made one promise, and to this day you have not built that school. One promise. This is what you said.
Let us build a school that is going to be attended by children of the poor families, the poor of the poorest, from all over South Africa. In the next 5 years, when we come back here, if we have not built that school, don't elect any of us in front here. We are useless. It means we don't know what we want.
You said that you would build a school, and if you failed to build the school, that your supporters should not vote for you. Thank you for reminding us, and please, EFF supporters, listen to the CIC Julius, please. He said don't vote for him, so don't vote for him. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, share, repost, and subscribe. #SmartVoters, #CitizenConcerned. Till next time, beware of the comrades.